Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm your host, Pragati, and I'm heartily welcome you to the TechGig DevRel Conclave. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here. So developer relation aims at building positive relationships with the developers and who are the primary customers of developer-facing companies. We can categorize developer or DevRel as a profession, a program, or a range of activities from developer marketing and advocacy to content and education creation to product marketing and so much more. It is all focused on interacting with the developers as a route to market. It is as old as the World Wide Web, and more than 700 companies practice DevRel today. DevRel continues to grow in scope and influence, mature in its practices, and have heightened the recognition as a growth strategy. Indeed, it might be time for a DevRel professional association to continue to strengthen and grow this practice. Developer relation reach has continued to expand beyond the traditional tech industry. IT or IS with 44.6% still dominates, but has decreased by 19% from 2020 as the industry grew, including SaaS, which grew by 21%, and financial services that showed 40% year-on-year growth. We at TechGig have been embracing developer relations since our inception, and being a developer community of 4.2 million developers, we've been collaborating with the biggest IT brands to leverage this discipline altogether. Today, we've assembled here to witness India's top developer plus and developer first companies reveal the secrets of building a successful developer strategy, altogether in today's time. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to witness our industry stalwarts unfold some exciting insights in DevRel today. So without much ado, let's get the ball rolling. I'm going to invite now, with the perfect kickstart of this event, may I please request Nitisha Reddy Chukareddy, Senior Manager Developer Relations at Salesforce, to enlighten us with how Salesforce is leveraging the strength of developer communities to mobilize their DevRel campaigns. Nitisha, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. I'm Nitisha Chukareddy. I'm a part of APAC Developer Relations team here at Salesforce. And I also own a program called Journey to Salesforce. So let me talk about how we do things at Salesforce coming from developer relations, right? So we take care of two different aspects. So one is existing Salesforce developers, and one is bringing new Salesforce developers into the ecosystem. So we have so many webinars. We do many creative things for the existing Salesforce developers. We meet Salesforce developers who are working in the partner ecosystem and run many, many campaigns. So the second part is bringing new developers into the Salesforce ecosystem. And again, I would have to say, and I would have to shout out to all the trailblazers who actually help us in reaching out to many, many Salesforce developers. So the trailblazers, I'm talking about our community members who empower us in all our campaigns, not just for new Salesforce developers, for also existing Salesforce developers. But how are we going to reach all of our developers, right? We have this amazing e-learning platform called Trailhead, and we use Trailhead to run all of our campaigns. And how do we run them? We just don't do it with just a 10 people team here at India. We do it with the power of the community. We have a huge community, and they are called Trailblazers. And this Trailblazer community helps us run our programs. So for example, I am an owner for Journey to Salesforce ecosystem program, which is for net new Salesforce developers who are working in other platforms. It can be anything. So if you want to be a part of the Salesforce ecosystem, all you have to do is register with Salesforce, Journey to Salesforce program. And once you register with us, you learn at your own pace on our e-learning platform called Trailhead. And you also get live support from our amazing Trailblazer community. And our community members are extensive. They're everywhere, all throughout India, APAC, and in fact, the entire world. So the Trailblazer community gives you live support. We have Telegram groups, and these Telegram groups are so amazing because they're localized. We have 5 Telegram groups in India, one in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and many other places. And then all you have to do is people can post their questions if they're stuck in their e-learning, and they get live support from our community members. Not just that, our community members help with live workshops. So if you have to connect the concepts from our e-learning platform Trailhead to a real-time use case, we actually have live workshops hosted by us, but run by the community members who help you connect the concepts to a real-time use case. So not just this, right? We have amazing things running at Salesforce, which actually are empowered by the community members. We do have meetups on regular basis in all these locations across India and across the world. All you have to do is go to our Trailblazer community page and get connected to the nearest group. And coming toward generative Salesforce, if you all are interested in learning Salesforce, and if you're interested in learning it for free, I would emphasize on the fact that it's free. Anything that our developer relations team here at Salesforce does is free. And our community members are so inspired, self-inspired, that they do things all for free as well. So if you want to be connected to us, if you want to be connected to our programs, just go to Trailhead, find generative Salesforce, register for it, and start your learning path. And also stay connected to the community members by going to our Trailblazer community groups and getting in touch with your local groups, anywhere you are. That's pretty much it from my end, but if you do have any questions, I'm ready to take.
Thank you so much, Tatisha. I think that was a great introduction of how Salesforce is leveraging the DevRel community altogether in today's time. Thank you so much for the keynote address.
You're very welcome, and thank you very much for the opportunity today.
So that was Tatisha Jukareddy from Salesforce, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time for us to learn and understand how companies are creating the blueprint of a successful developer campaign. So, to do this, actually, the entire discussion and help me leverage the insights of how they're doing it, please join me in welcoming Samarpan Bhattacharya, Principal Architect in SourceFuse, Sara D'Souza, Corporate Communications Lead, Intuit, Joe Drumgoole, Senior Director, Developer Relations, MongoDB, Sivakumar, Thyagarajan, Architect, Cloud Native Services, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Product Development, Oracle India, Pragati Rai, Head of Developer Relations, APJ Twilio, and Madhavi Singala, Vice President, Global Delivery Services, Entity Data. Welcome. And also, folks, before we begin, I would like to inform everyone that I have Aditya Oberoi, a DevRel engineer from AppWrite, who will be co-hosting this panel with me today. Hi, Aditya.
Hey, Sukriti. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for having me over as a co-host for this lovely panel today. And thanks a lot for the introduction there. Once again, hi, everyone. I'm currently a DevRel engineer at AppWrite. I've spent the last couple of years with tech communities, with hackathons around here in India and in the virtual circumstances beyond as well. So I'm definitely very, very excited to learn more about how we can go forward in building more successful developer campaigns here, because as we move towards a world that is trying to enable developers more and, enable the world in general more with tech, it is going to be very important to the success of developers all around. So can't wait for this panel to get started.
Thanks, Aditya. I'm also looking forward to some great insights from our eminent panelists today. And I would request our speakers to please give us a brief introduction about yourselves and the opening remarks of what you're looking forward to in the session. We'll begin with you, Joe.
Hi, my name is Joe Drumgoole. I'm a Director of Developer Advocacy at MongoDB, which is part of the Developer Relations function. I have never yet been on a DevRel panel that I haven't learned something. It's such an emerging discipline. I always learn a tremendous amount from the other speakers, so I'm here to learn as much as to teach what little I know about DevRel.
Thanks, Joe. Madhavi?
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Madhavi Singala from Entity Data. I head the international business and the public sector delivery in India. And that's another part of an exciting part, rather. My job is driving innovation initiatives at Entity Data India. So I pretty much started as a developer, just like any one of you out there. And as a proud one indeed, because I happen to have the privilege of, my first project being able to work with Indian Army. So quickly grew to a DBA kind of role. And today I'm leading basically, the delivery for a couple of our verticals here. And unlike some of my fellow panelists here who have their own products or a platform, I come from the services industry where, the dev relations could be slightly different, but I'm sure we will touch upon some of that because we're all learning that together, just like, Joe mentioned. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Madhavi. Pragati?
Hello, everyone. My name is Pragati Oval-Rai, and I lead the developer relations team for Asia Pacific, Japan, and Australia at Twilio. I'm a techie myself, and I've been in this space for the past 12 years, dabbling with DevRel, and I've seen it mature from a group of developers hanging together over beer and trying to write code to all the way a very strategic and organized approach to DevRel. So I am really excited to see and learn from the fellow panelists how their companies are envisioning DevRel today.
Thanks, Pragati. Samarpan?
Hi, everyone. Myself, Samarpan Bhattacharya. I'm a principal architect at SourceFuse Technologies. I'm a hardcore, developer from heart and soul. I enjoy it, but being a principal architect, I do more than that now. So, defining architecture, design patterns, guidelines at an organizational level, the exact same stuff that we call now as, DevRel, we are talking about it now. But it's like, being an architect at an organizational level, that's what you try to be, right? Setting up frameworks for them, so that they can build upon it and making them easier to do, not to do those menial stuff and do the important stuff that they intend to do. So that's what I've been doing in SourceFuse, and yeah, I'm looking forward to how different panelists are also engaging into these stuff. How the entire developer community is learning through all of these initiatives nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you, Samarpan. Sarah?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah de Souza. I lead communications, internal and external for Intuit in India. And so my job is to be the storyteller and beat the drum around our technology brand. And so I get all my energy from my engineers and technology leaders. So I'm looking forward to the panel today. It's such a diverse one. I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn a lot more to help me with my job and otherwise. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Sivakumar? Siva, we cannot hear you.
I think you're on mute.
No, we cannot hear you. Maybe you can just, unplug the headset. Yeah.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
Sorry about that. So my name is Thyagarajan. I'm from Oracle India. I'm a senior engineering lead or architect in the Cloud Native Services organization in Oracle. I'm part of this interesting group called the Oracle's Cloud Infrastructure Group, which is really building the next generation, integrated enterprise cloud. And for the past few years, we've been working on building and operating large-scale, distributed, reliable systems in the cloud. So my team's focus primarily has been on making OCI the best place for developers to build and run modern cloud-native applications. Right? And so personally, I've been engaged with the developer community in various forms in the past. I've delivered talks, I've led and participated in open source communities and industry standard groups. So I'm really looking forward, with the diversity in the panel, I'm really looking forward to interacting with my industry colleagues, share Oracle's DevRel strategy and experience, and also learn best practices from others. So that's really good.
Thank you so much, Siva. I think let's get started with all the set of questions and all the interesting things that I would want to know from each one of you. To begin with, how are you managing your DevRel in 2022 when there is tough fight for developer attention? We all know how the market looks like now when it comes to the developer demand. So I would want to know from each one of you that what is the strategy out there in the year 2022? So Sivakumar, we'll begin with you.
Okay, so thanks for the opportunity again, Pragati. So there's really no shying away from the fact that developers are the tech industry's royalty nowadays. Right? So after all, like as Mark and Andreessen said, software is eating the world, and they really make today's world run. There are major changes happening across the industry, be it in terms of technology. We have mobile development, low-code development. We have cloud computing in the back end. We have rapid spread of AI and technologies. And also, development and deployment processes have changed. We have agile DevOps techniques nowadays. And at the heart of all of this is developers. Right? And we have increased demand from developers. Like in India, we have a lot of engineers graduating on a yearly basis, but half of them reach relevant technical jobs. So there's a demand from developers, and there's also a demand for good developers. Right? So hiring has increased across the board. Oracle, at least in the last year, has seen a 4x jump in terms of hiring, and we hire at all levels. Right? And with all this demand, both from a push-pull point of view, we see that there's clear competition for developers' attention. And so our strategy with respect to DevRel in 2022 is still trying to do the same. Right? So we want to continue to focus on the needs of the developers. We plan to do this by engaging with the engineering community more closely, by participating in venues where they are active. Right? And today, the developer communities are diffuse, right? So they are in different parts of the internet. And so we want to create and host platforms around common interests. So we want to continue to host and participate in industry developer-focused conferences and events. And at the same time, we also want to help developers acquire, train, and build new relevant skills, right? And effectively providing them an excellent opportunity for developing themselves personally. And one more strategy we have is primarily to help provide an excellent developer experience in the cloud and in various products, so that we make it easy for developers to adapt, adopt, and grow in our platform based on their own requirements. So let me just stop there. I don't want to take all the airwaves, but I can go on. There's different ways by which we want to do this. We are planning to do this, and I can expand it later as I hear from our panelists.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Sarah, you, I'm sure, have a different perspective onto this, right? So help me understand from the leading the Copcom of Intuit, what is the direction that you're looking at, and what are the sorts of noises that you're creating out there?
Great. Yeah. Sukriti, I think there's a lot that we try to do rather from the Copcom's side, but I think a lot of that is focused on the fact that what's actually happening within the organization right now. And I think as a global technology platform company, our mission is to power prosperity around the world. But how can you do that without being cognizant of the fact that not all the capabilities that's in your product are already, figured out. And so you have to start building that ecosystem of developers to really unlock the power of the tech ecosystem. To do this in an organized way, we do have a group called the Intuit Developer Group based in Mountain View. They are focused on third-party developers that build and integrate on the platform. And this includes everything from developer advocacy and relations to also helping make our APIs accessible, and sharing information about how they need to integrate with them. So that's from an organizational point of view. But I think from an organization, I mean, in terms of a process, like how do we kind of make sure we're always on? But from there's another kind of thinking that we kind of subscribe to, which is external by design. And this is a journey we are on right now, which is when we build something, we want to make sure that our external developers can also use it by well-defined and documented APIs. This means that we are maintaining a single set of APIs for developers internally and externally. So by eating our own dog food, we pretty much know the firsthand experience of what that developer experience is like. And so where can we fix it? Because we've been on this journey where we've realized that, not all the APIs and the documentation is maintained, and it becomes difficult to kind of build. So it's not enough to just have that open, trusted, easy to build on platform. You need to think through completely. And so those are two things I wanted to mention in terms of it's not just 2022. I think this has been a continuous journey that we are on, and we want to keep focused on it, because I think one of the biggest things that I realized is as tech companies, we have to realize that we don't have all the answers. And the answers are out there in the ecosystem. So why not enable everybody to kind of help build together and move with speed and innovation? Because ultimately you want your customers to get what they need. And so I think that would be sort of the two things that I wanted to mention in terms of organizationally what we are focused on for DevRel.
Thanks, Sarah. Samarpan?
Hi. So I think DevRel, we are services company, right? So unlike the product teams that we're talking about, so we have a very different challenges towards this developer relations and all this, right? So we every now and then we have to move on to a new project with new stuff and all, right? So how do we keep on engaging the developers rather than getting them bogged down by different technologies and all, right? So again, setting up the framework for them first. So set up a common framework which they can build upon, and also engage them into that. And there is nothing proprietary in whatever we do. Proprietary is only whatever we do with the work for the customers that we do. So setting up a framework is an open source work, right? So let's start doing open source contributions. Set up a framework for everyone to use. The community can use. Community can give us feedback. We do obviously on GitHub we post we do webinars, we do blogs, and so that we can also spread out the awareness of whatever we are building and getting feedbacks from them, right? So that's how we can engage with more and more developers. Every now and then we try to gather other developers who are working as a community member for us. We try to take them into the strides. So it's not only the normal hiring processes. It's about what we can also contribute, right, to the community. So I still remember very vividly in the past, one of my mentors used to say, we usually as a developer we are leechers. We only pick up from Stack Overflow and everywhere, right? Why not contribute also? Very less people are actually doing contributions to the community. So, and there is nothing proprietary that we are doing. It's just setting up a framework to ease out the development process so that the developers can focus on the core business logic. Rest of the things, the menial work, is already provided by the framework. And with microservices, cloud native technologies, Kubernetes, and these coming into picture, all of these are very easy to do in a very generic fashion. So anything that is generic and cloud, and then we can obviously do it. So engage developers in other ways rather than just on being a service industry, what developers think that we will be working on a project. Not only that, you will be doing community contributions, multiple frameworks, Angular, AWS, Loopback. We've done multiple contributions to various places and learn from them, right? Contribute as well as learn. So this is how we try to engage more and more DevRel. And this has been a process since a few years now. And it will continue into 2022.
I'm sure, Samarpan, and this is an evolving process for all of us sitting here, and it's going to evolve in all possible manners and for the betterment of the entire DevRel community, I should say. Yeah. I'll move to Pragati now.
Hey, Sukriti. Sukriti, when you ask how are we managing DevRel, in one word, I'll say it's hard. And it's challenging. And the reason for that really is because DevRel is a business of people. And people, as you and I are, we are dealing with a lot of variables today. The post-COVID era, or is it the post-COVID era, or back to work or not back to work? There's so many things happening in our personal lives as well that we are trying to figure out. So, it's hard. So what we are trying to do at Twilio is we are a company of builders, right? We are built on developer relations. That's how Twilio started. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to go back to our core values. We are trying to be authentic, real, and empathetic to the developers. We are trying to genuinely help developers with a no shenanigans code that they can use, and being empathetic and helping them being successful in what they want to do. Right? So if it is a startup that they are working in, we want them to be successful in their startup. If they are in a bigger company, how can we help them sort out problems at hand that they are working on today? Because if they are successful, we are successful. So that's what we are working on at Twilio.
Very well said, Pragati. I couldn't agree more to that. That people management is DevRel is all about, and dealing with that. And we're in the very early stages, I should say, and we still have to figure out ways in order to do it brilliantly, and taking it forward in the coming years. I will now move to Madhavi.
Do you say Madhavi, Secretary?
Yes, Madhavi.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah. I think, I think we just touched upon this point that, it is hard. The dev relations is a big thing, whether you're talking about a product company or a services industry kind of a thing, because we are seeing a talent war like never before, right? Because I think gone are the days where employers would choose an employee. Today, I think the reality is that employee is choosing the employer. So in such a situation, and whatever COVID or the past 18 months or 2 years have taught us, I mean, you can clearly see that, the employees or the developer community that we are talking about, they're really craving for investment in human aspects of work. So I'm sure we have a lot of these outreach programs, Sukriti. I will touch upon those, when we're talking about hackathons and all that things later. But there are 5, broader ones I feel are very prominently, standing out in this aspect of, being able to build the relationships and stronger relationships with the developer community. One is, purpose-driven approach, right? If we are able to impress upon a developer why he or she is doing what they are doing, that is essential, to their retention. So this is where, we do a lot of stuff in terms of, academy or a learning, establishment, from a client-specific point of view, where if one is able to appreciate, what the client angle is, what the end users that they are servicing, are really, using these products or the applications for, I think there is a much better realization and appreciation of what they do. That's number one. Number two, I think the purpose are at a larger life perspective, because all of us, it's not a, initial growing industry now anymore, right? You see IT folks, in their early 20s or, mid 20s or early 40s or mid 40s and after 40s to today. So the needs are very different today. And if one is able to pursue their passion or interest in, from a broader life perspective, we see much better retention. So there again, we've done a lot of stuff, things like, employee resource group. For example, I also lead a sustainability initiative, or the employee resource group within Entity Data India. So that makes me feel, belong. So how do you bring in that belonging? So this is the second part, the purpose, but on a broader, spectrum. The third one is the employee bonding and all of that. I'm sure all of us do a lot of stuff, but things like, again, interests and hobbies. How do you enable, such interests of people? Because today we have a small thing like, photography club, where people actually learn and enjoy some of that as part of their day-to-day work life. And that makes them, bond better. There is a community spirit that builds in. So this is the third angle. And the fourth one is very important, obviously, the learning. This is where we are talking about all the training stuff that comes into picture. There are a lot of campus to career kind of stuff that we do, because we not only are talking about learning within the organization, where we do huge investment, but also being able to reach out to the campus and getting them on board, getting them to learn even before, they enter, the challenging industry kind of a thing. So there we do a lot of stuff. And the last but not least, innovation. So I'll touch upon this, probably more. But if these 5 angles, a purpose-driven work, purpose-driven life, level, connect and bonding, from an employee angle, being able to get, opportunities from a learning perspective, and being able to, create something so that there is sense of accomplishment, from an innovation angle. I think we've seen all of these are a lot more appealing to our developer community, apart from, all the technology, fun stuff that they tend to enjoy. I know that's a long answer, but, that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhavi. Joe?
Hi, I think there's been some wonderful points made here. It's kind of challenging to add to them, but I wanted to bring some perspectives from MongoDB, who's been on quite a long developer journey. I think the first thing you've learned is vendor-specific communities have a half-life of about 2 years. If you are focused on just making people good at your product, that's going to be challenging. I think there are exceptions. Trailhead has been an excellent example because Trailhead focuses on making you better at doing sales. And that's a huge area. And that's one of the reasons Trailhead has been one of the most successful communities in the world. Twilio has been successful because it took away the challenge of communicating with your customers. Before Twilio existed, you had to buy a massive block of hardware to do that. And so these companies have done an amazing job. MongoDB is trying to tap into the ability for making it easier to work with data, right? And data is complex and challenging. And so we like to think of ourselves as a data platform rather than as a database. But I'm not here to pitch MongoDB. The challenge for anybody is to understand that if you want to reach developers, you've got to tap into deeper motivations than just learning your product. So you need to look at the challenges they face, at the surrounding technologies. So you'll find the most successful companies have deep integrations with their partners. And so when we think about community today, we think about the total community of developers who might touch our product. That means all the cloud providers, a massive suite of tech partners. And we also in developer relations want to think about tapping into those individuals who don't yet use the product. We have a massive funnel, as everybody on this call has, of people who are interested in our product. They're already in the pipe, and there's a massive machine designed to enable them to be successful. What I'm interested in from developer relations is, one, finding that developer who hasn't used our product before and getting their attention. And you get their attention by tapping into those deeper motivations, not the, I want to learn MongoDB. It's, I want to solve the problem of putting all the world's news events in one database, or I want to solve the problem of properly storing massive radiographic images. If you can tap into those problems, you get to capture the intentions and the desires of the developer. And we want a relationship with a developer wherever they are. The typical funnel of companies is find the economic buyer, convert them, make them sign a big check. But we build relationships with developers and they transcend companies. And if you can do that, you've got a real developer relations program because they're champions for your product wherever they work. That, for me, is the fundamental aspect of a successful developer relations program. Combined communities, tapping into the deeper motivations of the developer, and fundamentally transforming how they do their job by making something they have to do much easier. And I refer back to our friends Twilio, who've done an amazing job with making communication easier. Trailhead done an amazing job of making sales easier.
Thanks, Joe. I think that wonderfully adds on to what everybody has shared in terms of their strategies of DevRel for 2022. Sarah, I will now move to you. You've mentioned that the developer focus things are driving innovation. So how is exactly Intuit driving that innovation index when it comes to developer relations altogether?
Yeah, so Sukriti, I'm going to answer this question sort of with, what I do here as the background for sure.
Yes.
But first of all, maybe what I do is I'll kind of, start off by saying that, innovation is a major focus, of course, here, because we do hold ourselves accountable for like almost a 40-year-old kind of history of self-disruption and reinvention and things like that. But I think one of the major things that we've tried to do, and it's been consistent across the years at Intuit, is trying to really get into the heart of things with what we call customer-driven innovation. And so it's a principle we not only hold ourselves accountable to, but also developers that build with us. And, we've often seen success when three of the criteria kind of intersect. One, an important unsolved customer problem that we or those we enable can solve well, and that will build durable competitive advantage. So these three, when we've seen them come together, that sweet spot is basically where we've always seen the maximum innovation happening. And so just against that backdrop, I'll probably say that, yes, we are an easy to build on platform. We subscribe to the thinking that we're not code owners, we should be code stewards. How do we kind of make this an open culture that empowers everybody to kind of work together to with speed towards innovation? And as we're doing that, that anyway is happening at Intuit, someone like me, I'd probably say my role here, and, very rightly put by Pragati, and I think Madhavi as well, we're in the business of people, right? We deal with technology, but we're actually in the business of people. And so how do you kind of want to build that culture internally such that they are your brand advocates externally? Because which developer out there wants to listen to Intuit or wants to listen to a corporate communications leader? Like, quite frankly, nobody, right? Like, you'll be like, what is she talking about? Who is she? And does she even know what she's talking about? So my job, quite frankly, here is to enable and give my people over here that platform. We do this by a number of things that we try to do, and I actually put it largely under the umbrella of employee advocacy. I feel like it's a huge piece of, how we kind of, build the brand externally and help our people tell the story externally, such that their peers and people within their communities and the communities they're part of externally all kind of see what they do here. And they're the spokespeople. So if you have 1,000 engineers here who are already part of that one Intuit platform, building on it every day, why not use them as brand advocates? And that's one of the key things we have tried doing when it comes to trying to, use them as our brand spokespeople, whether it be them speaking at external conferences, writing blogs, being part of virtual tech talks and external communities, all online forums and things like that. We have certain programs and offerings we offer them internally to enable them to do this externally. Of course, like a lot of other companies, we do have our developer support portal. I probably won't get into it in too much of detail because of the fact that I'm pretty sure people here know what something like that would entail. Developers can see a complete list of API entities. They can even publish their app on our app store through that. They have documentation on all the APIs available. A nice thing there that I know that the Intuit developer group does is ensuring that any kind of release or updates on the platform changes, everything is sort of, available for them to consume immediately on that platform. But that's from the point of view of how we want to make sure they're informed. Engaged is through the employee advocacy, angle I spoke about. But, I think Madhavi spoke about how it's a constant war for talent. And I think it's absolutely true, especially in the tech ecosystem that we have in India. I think it's constantly going to be something where we're always trying to break through the clutter. And how do you kind of talk about your organization, your work, your people? And that's why, speaking through your people is one of the main focus that we do, and building that tech culture internally such that it reflects internally, because both, you can't have something that you portray externally for a brand, but not have your people experience it internally. And so the two are very integrated in my view, in the way I see it as well, and how we try to tell stories here so that there is no discrepancy in the experience for the brand. But this attracting tech talent was a third piece I wanted to, cover. We're always on the lookout for people with, capabilities in AI, ML, data science, open source, all of that, across many roles. But how do you break through the clutter is, things that we've done in the past is we now have an always on tech brand strategy that we run. But I want to actually touch upon some unique hiring experiments or other things that we've tried to kind of make sure a little bit about who we are is experienced by developers out there. And so last quarter, we experimented with something called the Intuit India Coding Challenge, and we partnered with an external partner, of course. but the teams provided a coding challenge to developers who were interested to apply for roles. So their resume was the code that they submitted pretty much. So there was a challenge, they submitted their code, and that gave them the opportunity just by the cleanly well-written code to interview for the role. And last quarter when we ran it, 6 out of the 10 roles we were able to fill, versus going through the traditional channels of, hey, how do you attract? How do you hire? How do you kind of make sure we're getting the right people? So I think these are different kind of things we're trying to do. It's not just also about attracting people to join us. It's about this entire experiment being visible to the external community so they know there are things like this, there's work like this, and there are challenges that we are trying to solve along with the entire tech ecosystem. So, in a nutshell, I guess if I was able to cover, almost everything that I wanted to, I'd probably say, all of these efforts, all of them put together, and also the fact that in India, we don't necessarily have, the representation of the developer group, it becomes everyone's job to kind of look at it from that lens. And so we all have to work together, marketing, communications, the site program management office, leadership. And so it's a very sort of collaborative effort in the way we look at it. All of this kind of has led for us being able to really amp up, and that's the measure of success, our brand metrics among the top tech talent. So if I give you an idea, about 5 years ago when we ran the survey, I think our familiarity and consideration scores were at like a 1%. And today our brand familiarity stands at about 46% and consideration around 27%. So it's small steps, but we're seeing massive progress in the way in which we're thinking about how we do it for Intuit in India. And I feel like if we measure ourselves in this way and we're seeing this progress, that means we're doing something right. And so we keep going in that direction. But yeah, I think this is all what I wanted to share with you.
Those were some very insightful points, Sarah. I especially loved your point around employee advocacy, right? Because Intuit as an organization is a massive organization. There are thousands of developers who are already working with, who believe in this culture and these products. And why not enable them to advocate for these products and these solutions on public forums, right? It was a very interesting perspective, especially as we come to our next question, which I have for Joe, which is how do you plan to scale up the developer outreach or engagement initiatives for your DevRel campaigns?
Yeah, and this is a critical question, especially for a company of our size. MongoDB is sub 3,000 people. So we're just getting started on a journey that some of the companies on the call are well down the path of. What we've discovered, and we were a little bit forced into this by COVID in the last couple of years, we were basically, everybody was grounded. We've all experienced this. And so we started to expand into a set of digital channels that we historically had probably not paid a lot of attention to. We started a live stream. We started a podcast. We still did a ton of live events, but we started focusing a lot more on written content and video content. And I can tell you now, the digital channels that we've used reach 10 times more developers than our event channels. So all of the digital events, and digital events get larger audiences than in-person events. So we're continuing to focus on that. Now, that's not to say we're abandoning in-person events, but we're focusing actually, it's kind of a split. We're moving to each end of the bell curve. We're focusing on smaller events because there's higher engagement. If you really want to develop relationships, strong relationship with developers, you want to be doing the community events with your partners. AWS, for us, GCP, Azure, and a host of tech partners. I don't want to name any of them because the ones I don't name will get upset, but we have a lot of tech partners. That's how you deepen engagement. But to bring people into your product, digital is the way to go. And so you need to think about hitting them across multiple channels and branching out into the channels of your partners. It's a continuing theme for me. You can't do this alone in isolation. You must tie up with your partners. You must integrate the information you're doing. The biggest challenge we have is, and this is for MongoDB, and everybody on this call has this challenge, even larger than we do, is we are innovating like crazy, but nobody knows, right? Because it's really hard to reach developers with your new stuff. There's a famous apocryphal tale of Microsoft asking people what were the 10 new features they wanted in Microsoft Word, and they got the list of features. They were already in there, just people didn't know they existed. So we see lots of people saying, I wish MongoDB had transactions. And it's like, we do. We have transactions, built them 2 years ago. Oh, I wish MongoDB could do joins. We can do joins. We built that 6 years ago. So it's like, it's a continuing challenge to get people up the ramp of technology. And of course, we're challenged for attention. Developers are being bombarded with information. And that comes back to my previous point. You must tap into the deeper motivations of developers if you're going to reach them. And so learn my product. Nobody really cares. Yep, I might care for like 3 months while I'm learning your product, but I'm not going to sustain that interest. But become a better developer. I'm interested in that. Learn how to build more complex systems. I'm interested in that. Learn how to be a better salesperson. I'm interested in that. Learn how to communicate with your customers better. I'm interested in that. Learn how to build massive relational databases at scale. I'm interested in that. These are things that motivate developers. So we've got to get outside our own little cocoon of MongoDB is the coolest database in the world. Obviously, that's true. But there's actually other databases, other technologies, other systems. We have to embrace all of those technologies to some level and acknowledge that the world is not just about us.
Joe, some very pertinent points you've put across the forum today, and some amazing and fantastic examples, I should say. Very much relatable. I think all of us can relate to what Joe is actually speaking about and how things are faring out for all of us. So thank you so much for that. I will now move to Siva. Siva, what are the top modes of engagement that you use for DevRel programs in your organization, and some industry perspective out there?
Sure. So going back to the points which both Madhavi and Pragati and Sarah and even Joe made, like this is all about people. This is about deeper intentions behind these people. At the end of the day, like when it comes to crafting an organization's DevRel strategy, you must first acknowledge that the developer community is people. Yes, it's also intentions. But at the end of the day, it's a knowledge hub as well. Right? So it's a community of passionate technologists who already engage in a lot of knowledge sharing online. Elsewhere, they do peer-to-peer learning. They do mentoring and supporting each other. So what can an organization really do here? Right? So the best an organization can really do to effectively participate in these communities is to participate actively and contribute effectively. And that's how we can gain developer attention. Right? And so when we look at developers, at least in Oracle, we see two kinds of developers. Right? There's one, this internal developer within the organization, already inside the organization, but still, we want to nurture and develop and continue to make them effective. At the same time, there's also the external developer who either wants to use our platforms and products and technologies, or someone who we would like to hire in the future. And so we have different strategies with respect to reaching both of these audiences, right? So for the internal developers, so we have a bunch of ways by which we have platforms where engineers, irrespective of position of seniority, can come in and share ideas and discuss product and industry developments. We have architecture committees where engineers can come together, discuss and analyze and offer feedback with each other, so that they can learn from each other. We also have different kinds of conferences inside Oracle. We have, Oracles have thousands of developers in India, all over the world. We work on different wide range of products, and sometimes it's even difficult to know what's happening in other parts of the organization. And so these internal conferences are a great place where developers can come together, share new ideas, best practices, and so on. And then we also continue to recommend our engineers to contribute back, right? So in terms of publications, in terms of blogs, in terms of patents, so there's this constant encouragement towards those particular avenues for taking their ideas outside. But another key element in our DevRel strategy is encouraging diversity in the workplace. Right? So we strongly believe innovation starts and benefits from inclusion. Right? So we really believe that better ideas and a better future can be created when we have people from different backgrounds, perspectives, and abilities. And so we are trying to help create a workplace where we have diverse talents inside the organization. And so for that, as an example, at least last year, we had a career relaunch program where we helped women who have taken career breaks in India especially to re-enter the workforce. And we have these women come in, get offered full-time positions in OCI in the cloud organization I work in, and they also get structured training, they get mentorship, so that they can quickly adapt after that break which they've taken and still succeed in the career at Oracle. So these are ways by which we help internal developers, nurture and grow and retain talent within the organization. But externally, the focus is challenging, right? So we have different kinds of developers we want to reach out to. We have, as Joe and others mentioned, we have product developers who we want to reach out for, so that they can adopt our products and platforms. At the same time, we also have developers who we want to, look for, joining our organization or hiring. So we have different processes where we can continuously engage with these candidates. We have Campus Connect programs, as somebody has talked about. We constantly speak at industry conferences, company conferences. We partner with SIs and ISVs through dedicated events and dedications. So these are various ways by which we have continual connection with the developer community, and that's how we constantly learn from them about their needs and also participate and share our progress and share our innovations to them.
I loved so many of those points there, especially when you talked about an emphasis and a focus on diversifying your own workforce. I think that is such an important factor as we go forward, because the fact is that when you have people coming from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, from different journeys, you bring so many more perspectives and thoughts and ideas and voices on the table. And if we are to see a more equitable future with tech, that is going to be so important, right? Otherwise, we're really building tech just in the vision of a very specific privileged group. So thank you so much for those points. And I think that was a standout for me for sure. My next question here would be directed to Pragati, which is about the focus and the importance of content. How is content important for outreach and awareness when we talk about promoting DevRel, whether those are initiatives, whether those are programs or otherwise?
So Aditya, I'll pause here a little bit and challenge your question. And I'll say it's not just content that is really important for a success of DevRel. It's strategic content that is really, really important. And when I say strategic content, it is content that is strategically and very thoughtfully designed, developed, and delivered, keeping the right audience in mind. So let me just take an example. Let's say I want to talk about two-factor authentication using Python. So that's what I want to talk about. Now, when I want to design content around it, of course, I can write a couple of blog posts and code snippets, and that would do the job, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do I want to understand who my audience is. If it is like busy professionals, who are neck deep in their work, they don't have time to listen about what 2FA or what other things are. They already know. They want just tips and tricks, quick guide, crisp writing, and they're off to their work. Now, if this is for a student community, they would really appreciate a little bit more about what two-factor authentication is, how it works, and also a little bit about Python. Drop in the name of the original author of Python, and that will be a history lesson. And so that is what they would appreciate, right? Now, let's say if this is directed for a more senior developers like architects, they would be interested if this is the right solution for their problem, for their architecture. Moving even further, if it is for the CTO level people, they want to make decisions if they should be buying X product or Y product that would solve their problem of two-factor authentication. They could care less about the underlying technology, right? So that is one thing. Now, the second thing is, how do you develop this strategic content, right? Now, take, for example, me, again, going back to the two-factor authentication, I am nobody in the Python community. So if I write that content, nobody is going to read it or look at it. But I do know some about security. So if I go to the security community and tell them, like, hey, as a security professional, I tried to dabble with writing 2FA with Python, and here is what I stumbled on, and this is the mistakes I did, and this is what worked, they would be really excited. So, developing the content, so who develops it and who delivers it also matters. Now, the third important thing is, how do you deliver it? Now, every developer, forget developer, we as humans, each one of us has different ways of digesting information, right? There are people like me who are old school and who still write on a notebook with a pen. We like the more traditional ways. But there is my son who is a Twitch and Discord enthusiast. So he would like to learn through that aspect. So what is the mode of delivery with which a particular community would like? Now, there are no hard and fast rules. So the same content should be delivered in multiple ways. Maybe as a live channel, Twitch session, right? Maybe as a blog post directed for developers and students. Maybe as a use case study for architects and at the CTO level. So this is really what I meant by strategic content and how to do that. Now, and developers are busy people, right? And like what Joe said and Shiva said, that we have to get out of our cocoon of thinking that we are the most special ones and everybody should come and learn about our products. So that strategy won't last. Again, the content has to be really about developers and about making them successful in what they are doing. So sitting with them, helping them being successful in their jobs, helping them build relationships with like-minded people, getting them FaceTime with the gurus in the technology that they want to learn, and then helping them build their resume, because really they want to also, everybody wants to grow and evolve. So I think that kind of a strategic and thoughtful approach to content will help the expansion of DevRel program, and is really the oil and the fuel if we call DevRel a machinery. Over to you, Aditya.
Thanks a lot for that. I think those were some absolutely lovely insights there. And I do relate with the importance of strategizing on that note. Not all audiences are the same. And definitely, as we go forward and grow forward, it really has to be about thinking what works for everyone rather than maybe just focusing it on our own idiosyncrasies and our own ways.
Absolutely. Yes, sure.
I just wanted to, first of all, completely agree with everything that was said here, but there's an important point that really kind of runs contrary to how we think about content when it's digital. When you focus on those more targeted audiences, those most senior developers, you're going to get less views because there's just less of them. And we've been obsessed with page views, and we're developing a more sophisticated role, which is let's look at the impact. So you're not going to get 100,000 views on these articles. You're probably going to get 10,000. Those 10,000 people really appreciate it. And it's again about deepening that relationship. But your vanity metrics are going to go down, and get used to that.
Absolutely, Joe. And I think we should have Aditya and Sukriti, we should have another panel on metrics for DevRel as well. Because
definitely. Agree to it, Pragati. Yes.
Yeah, they change all the time. And with different segments of developers, with different spaces that developers hang out, it changes. So just a recommendation there.
Definitely. I'm going to definitely consider that in the upcoming year, and we will definitely look at some more innovative conversations like this, Pragati, and I'm sure it's going to bring on to the element that we're discussing here. Joe, thank you so much for that. And Pragati, I really loved that hierarchical bifurcation that you gave us for freshers, for the senior developers, architects, and moving to the CTOs. Those bifurcations are very minute, and we might just miss onto that while we are trying to analyze in terms of vanity what Joe mentioned, right, Joe? So moving on now, Samarpan, I'm going to move to you. I have a question for you that says that you have to tell me that how do you plan to get developers at scale for your planned DevRel initiatives this year?
Okay, so I mean, lots of thoughts have been going through, and we have been noticing some common patterns that eventually we will have to engage developers more and more, right? So that they not only just do their menial job of doing development, they also do get more, get appreciated, feel appreciated, right? That they enjoy it, they like to do it, right? So now there's another perspective to it, and again, I will just because coming from that background, right? I've been a developer, so I know all of these, So plus, working with a services industry, again, we have a different kind of challenge. Altogether, a different sort of challenges we face. For example, I'll give you in the past what used to happen. We have multiple projects, right? Multiple customers. Some of them are on one technology, some of them are on Node.js, some of them Java, some of them .NET, some of them even in Node.js, there are so many frameworks today's world, right? Express, Fastify, then there is many other frameworks, right? Nest.js, Loopback. So somebody knows this, somebody knows that, somebody knows this. Every team is working in their silos. At an organization level, where is the synergy? Where do they come and talk together? Everybody is just talking in the teams, small team, big team, doesn't matter. Everybody is just talking in their teams. So there has to be a synergy in and motivation to grow ahead, grow forward as an organization also, rather than just doing a bit for the projects, right? Learning. So that's when, and more problems for us begin when something new comes up. We want to do it in one platform, but we do have a resource available, but that resource is not having that technology knowledge. Now, how do we do it? So what do we do it? So that's when technology disparity, development principles disparity. There is lots of problems, in the past. So that's when we started thinking around it. And that's when we started thinking about how do we, as a developer also, we start making a synergy amongst everything. So use a recommended stack amongst us and build up a framework for them, which they can use, learn, and contribute. And that's when the idea of Source Loop, that we have built as an open source microservices catalog or a framework. So, the thought behind that was, in this world now, everybody is going microservices, micro front end, micro nano services, stuff like that. Everybody is just distributed. No more a monolith, right? Everything is distributed nowadays. So, and in that, there are many small parts which are, every application needs it. Every application nowadays needs, push notifications and chats. For that, you use Twilio, other stuff. Every application needs some kind of real-time chat feature. Every application needs authentication, authorization, audit logs. So these are common. But coming to this world, you won't find, everybody will be repeating, we'll be writing down code again for every new project. Why? That's where the Source Loop comes into picture. So Source Loop, uses cloud native technologies. Everything is Dockerized and containers, and gives you microservices, ready-made microservices. You just install it and go ahead. So common stuff is done. Now you can focus on what you intend to build as part of that project or whatever product you are working on, right? Even in the product industry, if there are some common things which you anyways need, for even developing your portals, right? So you get it, right? So this is nothing that we are doing as a, again, nothing proprietary here. Anybody can do it. We are just, maybe we just want to be the, earlier ones to do that. So that's where the Source Loop comes into picture, and we open sourced it. So now using this, we eventually then upscaled all our existing devs to the Source Loop, to this platform, to the technology. Now everybody knows it. We have upscaled them. We have trained them, right? It is fully scalable, extensible, and you can use it in whatever form you want. You can modify it, right, if you want. So that we call solid principles. I mean, techie guys will know solid principles. So one of them is open close principles. It is open close principle, right? You can extend it, but you can modify the code because we want to have a framework. Plus, ensuring that security and all the stuff is already maintained in those, right? People forget about it. They eventually start doing it once the project goes live, or something goes live, right? This happens in the service industry especially, right? Every time now then this happens. So even in a product company, when you release a new feature, you tend to forget about the security initially. Why? You can just start doing it from the scratch. And if you have a framework which gives you all those ready-made, you just need to plug and play. You configure, plug and play. Nothing better than that. So that when we developed that and upscaled all our existing devs, that's when we started to get the benefit out of it. So eventually, now we know what is the synergy. Now we talk about it every now and then. All the devs, they contribute to it. It's an open source contribution. And with this kind of stuff, again, once they contribute, they get a interest in that, in doing those. So they move on to doing contribution to other frameworks also, like Angular, AWS and stuff. So all of this comes down to, engaging them more and more. And then obviously they will talk about, if they have built something in the source loop, they will talk about it, talk internally, talk externally, again, those webinars, write about it, blogs. And as Joe said, very less views, very less reads. But sometimes they do get feedback. So those feedbacks are very important as well, right? So, and then whatever new devs come in, new hires come in, even the freshers, we train them, we help them learn, and we train externally also using, not train, I would say, doing discussions in meetups and all to learn more and more and spread whatever we are doing. So having this kind of a framework ready, which is, using latest stuff and, cloud native, cutting edge technologies. A lot of cutting edge technologies are there in the cloud native now, even now, right? So doing those stuff and contribute to it. So that encourages devs to, do these stuff rather than doing the menial stuff of just normal coding. Why? Do these also. So not only consume source loop, contribute to it as well, right? This grows the community. The entire developer community can also chip in, and we become the part of the community, which, as I said, 5 years down the line, I was also just not a contributor, I was a leader, right? So now we have done it. So we like to do it because if we can learn from it, we can contribute as well. Similarly, this is the growth of how DevRel as well, right? This is how the DevRel can grow. And what we believe is everyone is a dev and DevRel both, because they are the biggest evangelists of source loop or whatever we are doing. They contribute as well as consume. So I'm using these encouragements, and I would say not encouragement. It's like what they would like to do. They would like to do something which they own, which they have done. So that kind of gives them the ownership. Otherwise, what happens? You work and you just give it to some customer and somebody is using it, right? In product industry, obviously there is an ownership involved, that I have built that feature, but in the services industry, it's very seldom. So that's another different kind of challenge that we usually face, and that's where we chip in. And then when we post on a LinkedIn, when we post on when we do a webinar, write a blog about it, post it on Twitter or something. Okay, here it is. People see it, use it, and then somebody asks questions on it. We get feedback, we get issues raised or feature requests. We again either community contributed or we contributed. So it's like a constant engagement, and that helps other developers also get to know that, okay, this is what SourceFuse is doing. This is a different way of thinking. So that's why sometimes we also say that we are not a services company, we're a platform company. We have a platform where we can build any application now, and in a very quick turnaround time. Now moving ahead, how we can further leverage it. Also, add on to it is, now what we can do is we can, there are common stuff on the infrastructure side, on the CI/CD pipeline side. So every now and then, every application has the same CI/CD pipeline. We will copy paste it, or the platforms, because everything is now cloud native. Either it will be on a AWS EKS, or it will be on a native Kubernetes, anything, right? Or ECS. But ultimately, it's common. So why not again generalize it? And again, nothing proprietary, because we are just generalizing the same thing that everybody is doing, right? Set up a framework around it. So that's our goal. So one click code setup and deployment pipeline setup and the infrastructure setup for any kind of application is what our goal is to begin with. Any new project comes in, 3 things are common: one click, done, setup done. Now we just build on the actual core business logic of that product that we have to build now, or the features that we have to build now. So
thanks, Samarpan. Thanks so much for those insights. I will now move to Madhavi. Madhavi, I just want to understand from you that all of us spoke about how we're leveraging the community and how we're trying to work on the initiatives. How are you utilizing the potentials of DevRel communities for innovation? I would want to know this from you.
Absolutely. So, Sukriti, I think before I say, about how the community is being leveraged, from an innovation perspective, just want to put things in perspective that Entity Data is heavily investing into R&D and innovation angles. We actually have close to 3.6 billion average, being spent on R&D every year. We have around 17,000, patents, that are in the name of Entity, and 5,000 R&D professionals that are spread across the world. Having said all that, I think it's very, very important. How do you make these innovations relevant and come closer to, the developer community, right? I think fundamentally to our business is delivering value to the customers, because again, coming from the services industry, meeting the service commitments is taken for granted. Today, unless we are able to deliver value to our customers, which is really going beyond, the contractual commitments, it's not easy to build long-term sustainable relations. But the good thing is that, especially this developer community that we are talking about, we have several modes of being able to engage with them, and they naturally come with a lot of interest, inclination, from an engineering perspective. They're very creative, they have the recipe, probably handy, in being able to think out of the box and all that. But how do you moderate that? How do you, funnel all that, towards what really the clients are looking for? So there are a couple of things that I would like to mention. Again, I think as Shiva mentioned, earlier, that there's both internal angle as well as external angle to anything that we talk about, developer community. Internally, we encourage a lot of innovation from, the ongoing developer community by having multiple initiatives. This is where I was saying that, I run one of these initiatives called InnoWalk, where we are saying basically it's an innovators club, but central to the whole thing is the voice of the customer. Do you really understand what are the pain points of the customer? Do you really understand, what value means, to our customer? Based on that, how do you keep improvising, keep coming up with innovative ideas and all? So we have actually across all the practices within India an innovation premier league, which is considered a prestigious club to be part of. So here we actually also go beyond the organization and trying to collaborate with academia. So we have, for example, partnerships with the MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we also have multiple such collaborations across the world. For example, Tohoku University in Sendai, Japan, and so on and so forth. I don't want to basically name them, but there are multiple of them in being able to nurture the innovation activities where employees and the academy are coming together and being able to innovate and all. We in fact have a relationship with IIT Kanpur here, where we are funding or providing financial support for their startup incubation and innovation center and all of that. What this does, is basically the developer community is able to connect seamlessly, with the budding, emerging professionals, coming from the academic institutions and being able to, innovate from time to time. In fact, I think we joined hands, we partnered with TechGig a couple of years ago in having a hackathon, running across multiple colleges. I still remember it was probably 100 odd engineering colleges that came forward, actually joining as a team and, innovating and coming up with, ideas that are actually social and, sustainability centric and all of that. It was so powerful because we saw that, the interested individuals, youngsters, coming up, with wonderful ideas and which were, being encouraged by corporates like all of us. So these are multiple avenues that we are looking at, both internally where we are running some of these innovation initiatives, externally being able to, reach out, to the developer community through the hackathons, to some of these academic collaborations, where we are able to constantly, nurture, the innovation from time to time. So good thing.
Thanks, Madhavi. And now I think this calls for a wrap up of our conversation. But before we actually conclude, I would request each one of you to give me the closing remarks so that we can actually have a sort of a thought leaving behind with our audience and let them ponder upon it and look at the entire DevRel arena in a different perspective. So, Pragati, let's begin with you.
So, Sukriti, Aditya, and the fellow panelists, thank you so much for having me here. I learned so much and I look forward to continuing this conversation even beyond our panel offline. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Pragati. Samarpan?
Thanks, Sukriti. Thanks everyone for giving me this opportunity to kind of listen, learn, share what we have been doing, and get input. And as everyone said, let's take this also beyond this group, and we can talk about it, spread the awareness. And just one thing I want to say, because this is DevRel, right? Being a developer at the heart, I'm telling you, it's a very, very boring task. I'm telling you. So we have to make it interesting. So we need to find out those ways, those campaigns, those engagements, those ways of ownership and appreciations in amongst them. So so that's where it's all boils down to.
Thank you so much, Samarpan. Joe?
Always fascinating to listen to my peers who are all at different stages in the development of their DevRel disciplines. Love joining these panels. Always learn loads. You learn by teaching. My own little plug for MongoDB is we're hiring in India. We don't care where you are. You need to be in a major center for developers, but there's plenty of those. If you are interested, you can pick me on LinkedIn. We're looking for a senior developer advocate, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Joe. Siva?
Thanks again for this opportunity. I think it was great hearing from everyone and obviously learned a lot. I think we talked a lot about modes of engagement with developers, right? And the Oracle does a lot of them, like hackathons and participating in industry events and so on. But I think the key, goes back to what we were discussing earlier in this conversation. Like communicating with developers is a two-way street. Right? So we're usually seeing DevRel as a one-way, phase where an organization says, here is a cost spec, listen to it. But that's not the case. Developer innovation really happens elsewhere, and so I think developer relations, the future of DevRel is like having a two-way communication with the developer. And so I think that's what I learned today, and it was great talking about it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Siva. Sarah?
Yeah, I had a great time. I think I learned so much more about developer relations. Definitely. I think my personal takeaway, while we do a lot of this, where it's about packaging content in different platforms and, to access as many people in the places they want to see your content versus have them have to tune into where you want to be. I think we do that fairly decently, but I think something that we could get a little deeper in is definitely the motivations of the developer. And I really love that point by Joe. I think I do that fairly well for my internal developers, but I think doing that for external developers will make it a lot more, effective. And that's my personal takeaway for sure. And so I really appreciate the input from everybody here on how they look at developer relations in their organizations. Looking forward to taking a little bit of everything back with me. Definitely want to make another plugin just like Joe about how we are always hiring as well. And so do check us out or ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Madhavi?
Thank you, Sukriti. I think I started the conversation saying that, it was a talent war, right? So at the outset or superficially, when you look at it, it may look like it's all about pay and the perks, but I think that's really not true. I think the case is that, whether it is a developer or any employee that you're referring to, they want to feel valued by their organization. And I think Joe touched upon this point, that it's not about learning one technology in a short period of time. While that enthusiasm lasts for a few days or few months. I think it's about those long-term sustainable relationships that you build with individuals. How do you do that? I think today, the developers are looking for sustainable career paths, development opportunities, learning opportunities for, doing something new, something creative, something interesting, and all of that. So I think as long as we are able to provide that flexibility of career trajectories, that we can support them with, which we do with some of our own initiatives like Super Talent Highway and all of that. I think everyone needs to some of these, and developers from their end. I think, like I said, they love to do the learning and they love to, do this thinking and creativity. So my only message to them is you continue to learn, because the agility in learning is the fundamental thing today. And that's really the key to, all the success in future too for them. So they have to continue to learn, continue to innovate, and continue to join us in some of these hackathons. In fact, the hackathon that we are now launching, I think, in the AI space, healthcare, if I'm not wrong, security. So we want to welcome, more and more of the developer community to join us and some of these interesting initiatives and challenges with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Madhavi.
so much for that. I really learned a lot too, from our fellow panelists. Thank you all so much. It was wonderful being part of this conversation.
Thanks, Madhavi. Aditya, your conclusion here is very important for all of us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sukriti. I think, honestly, as I look back over this entire discussion, I'm just very grateful to be sitting here and listening, because we've got such an experienced panel, and here I am, 2 years in communities and 6 months professionally in DevRel. I personally value discussions like these very much, because DevRel as a space, while we've seen folks in DevRel for a very long time, as a space, it's really, really growing, and it has been doing so over the last few years, at least in my observation. As the space grows, it's going to be very necessary to have such conversations, to have discussions around how the space can evolve, right? Even as we look back at our discussion today, as we talked about the fight for developer attention, when we talked about Intuit's innovation index with Sarah, we talked about plans to scale up and how it is important and how it is achievable, when we talked about that with Joe. All of these discussions keep coming back, and these are problems that we're all facing in different organizations, wherever we are, right? Pragati's points on how it's necessary to strategize content for different audiences is something that I'm going to be looking into a lot more myself as well, since I work on content here at AppWrite. Modes of engagement that Sivakumar touched upon. I love the points about diversifying. I think that's something to take back. That's something to learn from for not just organizations and DevRel teams, but so many more beyond in tech. Samarpan's points around getting developers at scale, especially his focus on open source, is something I absolutely loved. Being at an organization that is fully open source as well, I definitely appreciate the emphasis on that. So I think this entire discussion was extremely insightful, and I am very, very grateful to be here to listen to all of you folks today. And I think we've taken some steps to start these conversations. We should definitely keep these going, because DevRel is not just a growing space, but a very flexible one. And to be able to understand and evolve, we're going to have to keep communicating across the space. It can't just be one organization or one specific group of people leading this. It has to be collaboration and communication between organizations, between folks all across this industry and this space. So I'm definitely very glad we had this conversation, and I look forward to a lot more in the days to come.
Definitely, Aditya. We have to pull off some more conversations, as Pragati mentioned, that we're looking forward to some more spaces of striking some more points, some more observations around DevRel. So we are definitely going to do that. Thank you so much, everyone. It was indeed a fantastic and a very insightful conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed knowing the insights and the activities, the strategies that you guys have put into place when it comes to DevRel. Had a wonderful time speaking to each one of you. Thank you so much for adding value to my conclave today. And with this, Aditya, thank you so much for helping me out with moderating this session. Everyone, thank you so much once again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
So that was the end of panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as a grace, as we, in TechGig embrace DevRel, we've been instrumental in aiding the development of developer relationships, I should say. As we are about to come to the end of this conclave, I'm going to present a small glimpse of how TechGig is embracing the entire developer relationship. Can we have the video, please?
DevRel is the intersection of engineering, marketing, and community management. Being a developer community of 4.2 million developers, TechGig has been instrumental in aiding companies with developer-focused engagement and branding. Brands like Reliance Jio, American Express, Cognizant, Google Cloud, AWS, TCS, Infosys, UiPath, Dunnhumby, Bosch and many more have leveraged TechGig for developer marketing through annual events like Code Gladiators and Geek Goddess, hackathons, coding competitions, tool evangelism, etc. Come, be a part of the DevRel revolution with TechGig.
Engaging the developer community as well, how strategic content is playing an important role and multiple aspects of it. So thank you so much again, everyone, for your warm presence. I would also like to, say, like, when it comes to TechGig, we being the India's largest and passionate most developer community, where understanding that every organization has their own ways and strategies to engage the developers, we offer a variety of products and services where, when we talk about, be it a one-on-one engagement through webinars or Ask Me Anything sessions or live panel discussions, when you as an organization you would like to engage with the developers, talking about building thought leadership for the kind of work you do, how exactly you are bringing transformation onto the table, what kind of contribution you're making to the ecosystem, right? What differentiates you as an organization than any other organization while engaging with those developer community. Then going towards a content-rich engagement, be it through articles, editorials, announcements, and stories, what we do, or when you talk about a gamified engagements, be it through codathons or hackathons or the events, what we do. So we as TechGig, I take a pride in saying that we are the only organization which an organization can look at engaging with their developer ecosystem in a 360-degree kind of solution way. So that's something which is there. Lastly, but I would like to also talk about Code Gladiators, the 9th season. We are upcoming with, so we are happy to announce the launch of a 9th season of Code Gladiators, which we are launching on 22nd, which will be live from 22nd of March 2022. It's a 90 to 100-day event. We still remember the journey we started from 40,000 registrations in 2014 and now reaching up to 3 lakh plus registrations and participations over a period of 8 years. We are recognized in the Guinness Book of World Records, and I can say we are the world's largest coding and hacking competition and India's largest developer summit. So Code Gladiators is one platform basically which we believe that every organization should look at engaging with, because that's one platform where you can engage with the developers, developer community from every corner of the nation and the globe, which talks about either engaging through a codathon or you're engaging through a hackathon, where you want to give a real-time experience to the developer community, engaging with you for your real-time business experiences and real-time business challenges, and contributing their thoughts and ideas to different career opportunities and likewise. So I would like every organization, I would like to give this message to all the developers as well, to come and participate in Code Gladiators and test your mettle, showcase your capabilities in place. And of course, when the organizations are upcoming in place, we would like to engage with all the organizations to engage with us in this particular event. Right. I would like to thank you. I would like to summarize my conversation with this. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Akshat. And thank you so much for briefing us with what TechGig is all about and how we're doing and being a part of this whole innovation when it comes to DevRel. Thank you. Okay, so, folks, DevRel is increasingly becoming a key part of many companies' business strategies, as we spoke today with our eminent speakers. As software eats the world, it will be the paramount for any tech company to have a DevRel group. While we look forward to some exciting overhaul of DevRel in the coming years, TechGig is constantly innovating its association with the companies to be a part of this paradigm shift. One such initiative, as Akshat mentioned, is TechGig Code Gladiators, world's largest coding competition, which is coming back with the night edition from March 22nd, 2022. So you have to stay tuned to TechGig for all the related information to Code Gladiators. This is your host signing off. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this conclave.